Stunning new developments in the race for Attorney General.
Violent text messages from Jay Jones.
Messages talked about shooting the Speaker of the State House.
Saying he would put 2 bullets in Gilbert's head.
3 people, 2 bullets, and wishing violence upon his children.
He wished Gilbert's wife could watch her own child die in her arms.
It's not just shocking, it's sick.
A scandal over text messages in which he, the Democrat, said that the GOP Speaker of the House of Delegates should get 2 bullets to the head for how he paid tribute to a former moderate Democratic lawmaker who died. He has apologized. Should he get out of the race?
Well, that's up to the people, the leaders in Virginia. They have said he has apologized. What I understand is they say that on balance he's the better person to be Attorney General. But that's up to them. But I wish there would be enough fuss of all the times that people have said they were going to put a bullet in my head right in public, in the public.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about the latest fake outrage from the liberal media and the Democrat Party, who are desperately trying to distract the public from the fact that the Democrat Party openly at this point refuses to denounce domestic terrorism, right? Domestic extremism. In fact, they have a candidate, a Democrat candidate for Attorney General out in Virginia named Jay Jones, who just got busted with leaked text messages, full context conversation, by the way, of him fantasizing about killing his political opponents, right? Fantasizing about killing Republicans and their children, okay? Now, again, this is a guy who's running for Attorney General, top cop of the state of Virginia, okay? Now, you would think that major news outlets, like, for example, MSNBC, would actually care about this, right? They would actually cover this. But outside of Morning Joe, I haven't seen much coverage of this story at all on MSDNC. And part of the reason why is to run cover for Democrats who are actively refusing to call for Jay Jones to drop out of the race, okay? When confronted about these text messages that leaked, again, in full context, the dude was dead serious about fantasizing about killing Republicans and their children, right? He was asked in the group chat, hey, can you please stop, right? Are you serious about this? Dude doubled and tripled down. He doubled and tripled down. Again, when Democrats are confronted about should this guy drop out of the race, right? They don't really seem to have much to say about it.
Do you think Jay Jones should drop out of the race in Virginia?
Jay has apologized. The statements that he made were indefensible, but I've known Jay Jones for 25 years. I think those statements were not in character, and he has apologized. I wish other people in public life would sincerely apologize for stuff. So, no, I still am a supporter.
Quick question. Do you think Jay Jones should drop out of the Virginia race for AG? The AG candidate in Virginia, Jay Jones, should drop out of the race after those violent texts that came out? What he was saying about the former House Speaker in Virginia?
Being somebody who has, in my family, political violence is a real thing and it's a big deal.
Do you think the Virginia AG candidate, Jay Jones, should leave the race that he's in?
Time at the moment. Thank you.
Okay. Did you see those texts, though, that he sent? The violent text messages? Up out of the race, Senator Jay Jones?
Senator, do you have any comment on Jay Jones?
So when you get back to the office, they're going to have you.
Well, I'll be honest with you, I don't recall exactly what he said, but at least the reflections I got, I thought it was horrible. I really do. I don't know the dynamics of the race.
Yeah, so again, for whatever reason, again, you have certain anchors on MSDNC, right? Like, for example, Chris Hayes, who did not cover this story at all, right? Didn't talk about it at all, at least as far as I could research, right? He didn't talk about the story. But for whatever reason, he did talk about a story that is becoming the biggest news story in the country, which happens to be about some text messages that were leaked between some group chats involving young Republicans, right? The club, Young Republicans, which, they have chapters in different states and stuff like that. They were making racist jokes, or what appears to be jokes. I don't really know the context of these text messages. That is why I'm, somewhat skeptical about this story, because I'm like, I don't really know the context of these messages because I didn't have the opportunity to read the full context, especially knowing the things that are said in group chats, right? But regardless, Chris Hayes, MSDNC, all of a sudden now they are concerned about these text messages from these young Republicans.
We are getting a window into how a new generation of Republican activists talk when they think no one's listening, and it's really ugly. Politico obtained more than 7 months of Telegram chat messages between about a dozen young Republican leaders in New York, Kansas, Arizona, and Vermont. Now, MSNBC has not independently reviewed those messages, but what Politico published today shows the conservatives openly praising Adolf Hitler, making celebratory jokes about gas chambers and slavery and rape. For example, when the chair of Arizona Young Republicans asked if the New Yorkers in the chat were watching an NBA playoff game, New York State Republican Chair Peter Junta responded, "I'd go to the zoo if I wanted to watch monkeys play ball." We should note that when Politico asked for comment, the Arizona Young Republican chair declined. Junta claimed the release of the chat is part of, quote, a highly coordinated year-long character assassination led by an opponent, I think a kind of internecine opponent, a fellow conservative. Out of 28,000 messages obtained, Politico identified 251 bigoted epithets in the chat. There were many more outrageous examples of racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, homophobia than we could or would want to repeat here. Here's the thing. These are not we're not talking about kids here. The age limit to the group was 40. Many chat members work inside government or party politics. One's a state senator. Another works in Trump's small business administration. Politico reports that since they began making inquiries, at least 4 members of the chat have lost their jobs or had job offers rescinded.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Now, me personally, I don't give a damn about this, right? I don't give a damn about these text messages. The same people who were either silent or refused to denounce or call for Jay Jones to drop out of the race. Somebody whose text message that we do have, okay, in full context of him fantasizing about killing his political opponents, Republicans. I don't want to hear anything from these people, right? To be honest with you, I personally don't care because I know for a fact, okay, that probably 90% of active group chats in this country, right? Active group chats probably have some really messed up stuff in it, right? And if you don't read the full context of the group chat and what is being said or the jokes that are being made, then, you know, again, it's hard for me to come to a conclusion about what was actually said, what was serious, what was not serious. But regardless, again, you're not talking about somebody running for attorney general of a state, again, openly fantasizing about killing his political opponents. I think that is what we really should be focused on. And of course, you have the pressure from the media and Democrats for Republicans to come out here and do the tap dance, right? Well, see, you got to condemn this. You got to say something about it, right? And of course, there have been Republicans and Republican groups that are doing the tap dance for the mainstream liberal media.
Of course, the Young Republicans organization themselves issued a statement saying that they were appalled by the vile and inexcusable language revealed in the Politico article published today. Such behavior is disgraceful, unbecoming of any Republican, and stands in direct opposition to the values our movement represents, blah, blah, blah. The correct response would be either no response, why even bring any more attention to this, or to defend these young men. Just brush it off. Say it doesn't matter. If you're asked for a comment about it, say, oh, well, big deal. The Kansas GOP denounced them. The Missouri GOP denounced them. The Republican Party of Arizona issued a statement denouncing them. Some guy who's running for Secretary of State of Kansas issued a statement denouncing them.
Yeah, so you see that, you heard that. Now, I agree with Mark Dice here. The last thing that I want to see right now, considering the moment that we're in this country, is any Republican, any prominent Republican coming out here and tap dancing for the mainstream liberal media and the Democrats and the left claiming that, oh, I denounce these group chat messages. This is not what we stand for. These are not our values, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear. That's the last thing that I want to hear. I don't want to hear any weaklings come out here and say anything about this. Why? Again, because the people that they're groveling to are the same people who refuse to call for Jay Jones to exit the Virginia race, who refuse to say anything about it, who refuse to denounce him, to denounce his candidacy. They don't care. They don't care about putting a top cop in charge of a state that wants to kill Republicans and their children. So who am I to come out here and to do a tap dance for these people over some group chat messages? A lot of these messages, obviously jokes. I'm not going to. Right? J.D. Vance apparently is not going to either, right? The vice president of the United States who chimed in on this, he is refusing to pearl clutch, right? He's actually calling out the pearl clutching. And the CNN panel here is going to get pissed off with JD Vance for showing some leadership on this issue. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it.
Leaked messages from young Republicans who were joking about gas chambers, slavery, and rape. Politico reports on Telegram chats involving leaders of the groups across the country from the first 7 months of this year. Now, one of the messages referred to black people as monkeys and watermelon people. One fantasized about raping their enemies and driving them to suicide. One called rape, quote, epic. Another supported Republicans who they believe support slavery. One talked about sending political opponents to gas chambers to, quote, watch people burn now. Slurs were reportedly used more than 250 times, including racist and homophobic ones. The outlet reports that at least one texter lost their job for this, and another had their job offer rescinded, and at least two of them apologized. High-profile state Republicans like Republican Representative Lee Stefanik have condemned the messages, and the young Republicans called the chains vile, disgraceful, and inexcusable. But Vice President J.D. Vance is taking a different approach tonight, citing the text of a Democratic candidate for Virginia's Attorney General from a couple of years ago in which he suggested a lawmaker get 2 bullets to the head. Vance writes, quote, this is far worse than anything said in a college group chat, and the guy who said it could become the AG of Virginia. I refuse to join the pearl clutching when powerful people call for political violence. It's an interesting choice on Vance's part.
Yeah, I think the vice president missed an opportunity here. I mean, these are, young Republicans, disgusting. They're learning a hard life lesson on the public stage right now that you need to grow up and not, say stupid and hateful and just disgusting things.
Well, again, my problem with this is that if you check, again, any group chat in this country, right, that is active, I guarantee you're seeing far more vile and racist stuff. Again, like, for example, can you imagine the group chat of the Congressional Black Caucus, right? Some of those sub-group chats that Jasmine Crockett is probably in. You don't think they saying all types of racist stuff in those chats? I'm sure, right? I am positive there's a lot of racist stuff in a lot of these chats, right? Again, if we're doing this thing where we are judging people by jokes that they made in a group chat, right? Again, I don't know if they were serious or what. I haven't read the full context. I don't know. But again, I did see the full context of what Jay Jones was talking about, and he was dead ass serious about wanting to kill Republicans and their children. He was dead serious. I can't say the same thing about this group chat. Now, again, I'm not saying that I necessarily agree with what they're saying. I don't know because I haven't read it. Politico has not released the whole thing. They've released snippets that could be in context, could be out of context, and we should not play this game where we take out of context text messages. Again, we don't know the full context of what was said, and then we, pearl clutch and we say, we condemn all of this, right? While at the same time, the people that you're pearl clutching for, these people were celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk, and then they tried to gaslight the United States of America, tried to gaslight the country about who was responsible. A far leftist was responsible. They say, no, the shooter was far right. You don't understand. This was MAGA infighting, right? Again, they still haven't really condemned Jay Jones. They haven't even called for him to drop out of the race. But we're supposed to pearl clutch over some racist text messages. Right? Get out of here. Right? Get out of here.
I think the vice president could have really used this moment as a learning moment and, encouraging these young men and women, I don't know who they were, but to be better and to, denounce what they've said, to move on and be better. These are young Republicans, and so I don't hold necessarily anyone responsible. They're young, they need to make mistakes, they need to apologize and see the error and move forward, and I wish that, the vice president would have said that.
Well, the only reason people are asking for them to apologize is because they got caught, right? Because the message got leaked. But again, I just feel like 90% of active group chats in this country, right, have some really vile, messed up stuff in it. And that doesn't mean that people should be fired for these things. Again, it's not like, at least as far as I know, any of these individuals in this group chat are actually, running for Attorney General of Virginia, right, and sent serious messages about how he wants to kill Republicans. Yeah. Again, this story is just not a big deal, right? To me personally, like, it's one of those things, like, it's almost like a water is wet thing where it's like, oh yeah, like, a bunch of young people in a group chat. Of course, there's going to be some wild stuff. I'm pretty sure, again, there's a lot of wild stuff in some Democrat group chats as well, too. I'm sure, right? I am sure, 100% sure.
I don't understand the excuse for the Democrat nominee for Attorney General in Virginia when he texted, even worse things as an adult, as a sitting office holder, about a colleague in the state assembly. And so they're not comparable. They really aren't. These comments are disgusting. I really hope these young men and women learn from this, learn that, how wrong it was and become better. And I really hope, I'm glad to see a number of Republicans step up and condemn them as well, because they're terrible. But I do think to say that this somehow justifies that Jay Jones did nothing wrong and should still be the nominee for Attorney General.
You just did exactly the same thing that J.D. Vance did, except for the fact that you denounced the words. But you immediately pivoted to...
I wouldn't have brought him up if you weren't talking about it.
But you immediately pivoted to a Democrat instead of focusing on the fact that this is a pattern. The saddest thing about this story is that it was not the least bit surprising to me. I mean, I don't think anyone who I know who's familiar with where the Republican Party has been going the past decade or so is the least
Hitler or fascist.
Well, J.D. Vance literally called Donald Trump Hitler. What are you talking about? J.D. Vance said that himself. J.D. Vance called Donald Trump Hitler.
This is where the Democrat Party is going.
Kristen, and also Ben, as we've played multiple times here, Trump has repeatedly called his Democratic opponents fascists. So that argument does not hold.
And no, it actually does, because again, the difference is that you don't have Republicans running around killing Democrats because of political rhetoric, right? You don't have that, but you do have far left lunatics running around killing Republicans, assassinating conservative activists, trying to assassinate the president of the United States, specifically because of things that are commonly said by Democrats. Again, that's the difference here.
There's a whole history of racism in the Republican Party. It started in 19...
You guys had slavery. We were against it.
Okay, let me
The Democratic Party literally was a party of slavery. So let's not act like there's not a history. If you want to talk history, slavery is the Democratic Party.
Why don't we just listen to you and tell us about black history?
On that one, every American should be able to tell you about it. You don't have to be black to say that the Democratic Party was in favor of slavery, the party of slavery.
You don't know what you're talking about. Let me just say that.
I do. It wasn't the Republican Party.
Let me
History
just
is
make one
there.
note, because I do think that there's something interesting. Look, I just want to say, I think Kristen is 100% right. This was an opportunity that was missed, right? To say, we draw the line somewhere in our politics. And it's not the first...
Yeah, opportunity missed for Republicans, but not for Democrats, though. Again, is it an opportunity missed for Abigail Spanberger to call for Jay Jones to drop out of the race, right? Or any other sitting Democrat? Again, it's just so funny to me how Republicans are always expected to be held to a higher standard than Democrats, right? There is no standard for Democrats, right? But it's always Republicans. Republicans have to be held to such a high standard. Oh, see, you have to come out here and denounce these racist text messages. But again, these are the same people who were celebrating the assassination of Charlie Kirk. They were trying to justify it, right? But yet, again, you believe that, again, it's Republicans that have to draw a line and say, hey, this is too much over some jokes in a group chat? Really? Fascinating. But yet, Democrats aren't expected to draw a line when it comes to text messages that were not jokes about killing Republicans? Fascinating.
First time that not Trump, but Vance has seen an opportunity like that and completely blown past it. Back in February, Vance and Trump called for the rehiring of a DOJ staffer who quit over racist posts, and they did rehire that individual. Well, I think let's not get distracted by some of the other parts of this, but why is it that, he's unwilling to just say, this is disgusting, this is vile, this has no place in the Republican Party, cut it out?
Yeah, two things I think can be true here. Number one, I'm glad we know who these conservatives are. I think there should be consequences for their words. I don't think this is just a teaching moment. I think if they have a job, they should lose their job. I don't think they should work in the Republican Party. I don't think they should be involved in the Republican Party. I think they should be excommunicated and put on the bench for a pretty good amount of time. I want to be clear about that. I also think that if you are about to be in an elected office in Virginia and you've said things that are worse than this, and you've said that the kids deserve to be hurt, that two things can be true at the same time. Republicans, young Republicans saying this, they should absolutely has a consequence.
But it's not just young Republicans, Ben.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I necessarily agree that all of these individuals should lose their livelihoods because of some racist messages in a group chat. It's not like, again, they openly celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk and tried to justify it online, like publicly for the world to see. No, these were private messages. Okay. And again, the difference between Jay Jones and these messages is that, again, Jay Jones is running for attorney general, and his messages in full context were dead serious. He was very serious, and he was warned multiple times about, hey, you know, you might want to walk this back. You might not want to say stuff like this. And he was very serious about that's how he felt. Right. So again, that's the difference. I think that's much worse than some jokes, some racist jokes in a group chat. If we're firing people for racist jokes and private messages, again, I believe more than half the country will probably be fired, okay, based off what is likely in the group chats that are active across the country. This stuff happens all the time, right? I mean, this is very, very, very normal stuff in regards to what people say in these group chats. And again, I think ruining people's lives over, I think it's crazy, especially considering how it was private, it wasn't public. And again, the nature and the full context of the text messages, we really don't know, right?
Democrats have defended an individual who said that family members should die.
Let me just say, I mean, these are separate incidents.
Yeah.
However, the same question that I posed to them does apply to Democrats in the case of the Virginia case. And,
Thank you. And it's easy to say you can. I condemn that. How hard is it for J.D. Vance to say I condemn what these Republicans are doing?
To say it, if that's the question. If the question is, should it be condemned?
But my point, and you kind of made this earlier, Abby, is that there are racist Republicans who are currently working in the Trump administration who have been outed for their racism, and Trump let them stay there. One guy said America should be led by white men only. White men only. One guy said this, and Trump put him in the office.
So by that justification, every Democrat talks the same way that by that same justification, every Democrat wants their opponent
it's 2-on-1. Just let me speak here.
Hold on a second. I'm not understanding the point that you're making.
The point that I'm making, if you're trying to say that these texts are symbolic of the Republican Party at large, then I can say that Jay Jones's texts are symbolic of the Democrat Party.
But you know what? You can't say that because when Jay Jones says something, Democrats condemn it, like I just did. But J.D. Vance, the Vice President of the United States, refused to condemn what these Republicans did. The Vice President of the United States, even though the Vice President of the United States, because Donald Trump has a history of racism, and the fish rots from the head.
Wait a second.
These people didn't get this idea on their own. They're getting it from Donald Trump.
Who is Jay Jones's model?
Just give me.
Jay Jones is not the issue.
Just give me 1 second.
It's the same philosophy.
He's already been
All right, everybody stop for just stupid, disgusting texts and saying it's the Republican Party.
Yeah, so of course the Democrats, again, aren't going to call for Jay Jones to actually drop out of the race, right? They'll say, oh, well, we condemn it, but we're not going to call for them to drop out of the race. Now, they want all these kids, right, all of these individuals in this group chat, they want them fired, right? They want them fired. They want them to lose their livelihoods, right? That's what they want. Okay, and that's the double standard here that really annoys me, okay? Because, again, they will go on and on and on about how this is so bad, how these people shouldn't have jobs and, you know, blah, 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 right? That's what they'll talk about. But when it comes to one of their own, okay, they are not going to go that far, right? They're never going to go that far. And that's why we should not capitulate to the fake outrage from the media, because that's what this is. This is fake outrage. I don't understand how this instantly becomes a national news story, but the Jay Jones story literally, like, it's been out for weeks, and that really hasn't got as much coverage as this story has already gotten in a day, right? In a couple days since it came out. And Democrats are, again, refusing to tell this guy to drop out of the race, even though what he said was completely serious and disqualifying, right? Absolutely disqualifying when you're talking about being attorney general, okay? And Democrats are like, nah, he should stay in the race, right? He good. I don't want to hear anything from people like that. I don't want to hear anything from people who openly celebrated the assassination of Charlie Kirk, tried to justify it, refused to condemn people openly celebrate. I don't want to hear anything from these people. I'm not going to grovel. Nobody is going to apologize to these people, right? It's just not me, okay? And anybody that's apologizing, groveling, you're weak, right? You're way too weak for the current state of our politics. There's absolutely zero reason whatsoever to bend the knee to the left on this issue. They have absolutely no room to talk on this. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.